Hello, pedagogy and second language students. Today we're closing our module on methods with this presentation about the Postmethod's criticism to recipes. Okay, so here we go. The first criticism is a top-down criticism because methods are prescriptive. They tell people what they are supposed to learn and how they are supposed to do it. So for that reason, it's been criticized. Methods have been criticized. Also because one correct teaching or good practices, that's really difficult. It's really difficult to create a formula that is going to be effective for every single teacher. And there is only one correct way of doing things. Another top-down criticism to this methods is the limited role of the teacher. Normally the teacher is a reproducer of the method. There is no learner-centredness or teacher creativity as well. So as the teacher is a reproducer of the method, the students are consumers of the method. So of course there's no learner-centredness. The whole intention is to have learners do as the method proposes, and then same for teachers. So there's no room for creation. Individual differences are also not acknowledged in the different methods. Normally everyone is treated the same way, so this is a big problem. And there is a de-professionalization of the teacher. So there are different schools and different centers where, for example, Mayer or Berlitz, for instance, where the teacher doesn't have any room for creation. They just have to reproduce the model as it is and kind of teach based on a script. Another criticism that has been present for the methods is the contextual criticism. First of all, methods are created as an all-purpose solution to teaching problems in any part of the world and under any circumstance, which is, of course, unrealistic. It's not the same to teach a lesson in Colombia than it is to teach a lesson in Japan. So, of course, these contextual factors are ignored and they don't let the method be well taught. A second one is the cultural, political, local, and institutional classroom contexts are ignored. And so it will be very, not even in a different country the lesson would go in the same way. Imagine within the same city, for instance. In Bogota, for example, we have high-profile schools, we have low-profile schools, we have high socioeconomic strata schools, and the same for low. And of course, each one of them has their own culture and their own politics and their own institutional policies, which makes it really difficult for methods to work the same throughout. So another of the contextual criticisms is the communicative language teaching is seen as a form of cultural imperialism. Why? Well, because in this method, for example, the idea is that people learn to use the language in order to know about the culture of the other country. So making, canonizing somehow the foreign culture over the local culture, which is something that nowadays we know is completely wrong. There are also assumptions about the roles of teachers and learners that are culturally universal, and this, of course, is false, because a teacher is not the same in Japan, once again, than in Latin America, for instance. So, as you know, in Asia, the authority figure is highly respected, etc., whereas in Latin America, we are more equals. And so these idiosyncratic relations also play a highly important role in the teaching and learning processes. Another of the criticisms is the curriculum development criticism. So if we have a prescriptive method, a method that is based on a set of rules and parameters, then there is no room for examination or development or assessment or feedback. So as we see in these points in this slide, there are different things in the curriculum that are ignored. So please take a minute to read the slide and maybe take some notes on your Cornell note-taking format. So an important factor here is that we tend to apply the curriculum of other places. So for example, something that works in Finland not necessarily is going to work in Colombia. So for that reason, we have made some mistakes in the instruction in Colombia because we are applying methods from other places without evaluating the contextual factors we just discussed a minute ago. So this is a big criticism made by the post-method era. Another of the criticisms is the research criticism. Gurus do not always base their assertions on SLA research. So people who create these methods, for example, let's take a look at the audiolingual method. The audiolingual method was created to solve a particular problem, which was the need for soldiers to speak in different languages in a very short period of time. So a group of people just thought it would be great to have them repeat and repeat without any thinking or without any thought processing. Just repeat, formulas, and so that way they will be speaking in the contexts that they need. So of course, in that situation, it worked, but it was not based on research. It was just based on observations of some people who thought that would be the best way to do things. However, the audiolingual method was then replicated for a long time and in many different parts of the world. So then we see how the methods are not always born with research in mind and with the needs of the many in mind there. Current knowledge is tentative, partial, and changing. So this is another of the big problems. If we apply a method in any particular context, it's not necessarily going to work because conditions in different places change. And current knowledge is tentative, partial, and changing. So for example, that happens with people trying to implement approaches like the flipped classroom without preparation, or for example blended learning, without preparation, without research, and without considering the multiple factors that affect the actual implementation of something. A reflection made by Skehan in 1996 is that PPP, which is presentation, practice, and production, does not reflect the principles of second language acquisition. So for him, that is one of the most important ideas, and we see that many of the methods work with the PPP model. So we have to ask ourselves the questions that we see in the image right here: who, what, where, and why. We have to think about our context before applying or implementing a new curriculum or a new method. Another of the criticisms is the classroom practices one, which is very clear, and it is about the divergence. It's divergence between practice and theory. Not because we know what, for example, oral situational approach is, it means that we are going to implement it exactly as it is in our classroom. Because in our classes we have humans, and humans, the human nature is to interact. So for example, in a model as restrictive as grammar translation, we have people who want to ask questions, who want to compare their answers with their peers, who want to interact. And so as the method doesn't propose this, then we would be violating the principles of the method if we allow students to do so, which is somewhat irrational, taking into consideration that we're teaching humans. So classroom practices are similar, but they are given different names. This is another of the classroom practices criticism made, which is that sometimes we may use different terminology for the same things, but these are rejected in a different method. So for example, in the communicative language method, we have pair work, but then for the grammar translation method, this would be checking, peer checking. So it's just a difference in terminology, but the practice stays the same. And also that methods are different in the initial lessons, but they become very alike when in the final stages. As I was mentioning before, of course it's easier to keep silent way lesson, for example, at the beginning of a course. But then when students have more tools to interact, it would lose, the boundaries, and it would become more of a communicative language lesson. So it's difficult at the end when people already have the competence to keep them quiet and to not have them speak. So Bailey in 1996 proposes a set of principles that we need to take into consideration in the post-method era. We are not implementing any one particular method at any particular time. We are making an eclectic mixture of all of them. So we should consider these core principles. If you are not taking notes, this would be a great time to start. Engage all learners in the lesson. It is really important to try to bring everyone together in your lesson and have everyone think about their own learning process. Make learners the focus of the lesson. We saw it somewhere above. The learner-centredness is key to 21st century lessons. Provide maximum chances for students' participation. So be it in the form of whole class or peer group work or group work, but make sure everybody has a chance to participate. Not always teachers may listen to everybody because of course students are shy or they have their learning I don't know, they have their personality differences, but still in pair work, in group work, in a station rotation model, you may provide opportunities for students to participate. You also need to develop learner responsibility, and I'm going to jump to the next one, which is learner confidence, and these come together. If students learn to be responsible for their own learning, it's very probable, it's very likely that they will be confident in their own learning. So it is important to provide opportunities in your class for students to develop responsibility and confidence. Also be tolerant of learning mistakes. It's important to find different error correction techniques to help students be more confident about their learning. And teach learning strategies. Not all students learn the same way, and so we need to find a way to make them all learn anyway. So teaching learning strategies facilitates this process. Other set of core principles are respond to learners' difficulties and build on them. It is important to assess your students' needs, to assess your students' difficulties, and to plan for that. Who lacks pronunciation? Who lacks grammar? Who has vocabulary problems? And then try to tackle those difficulties at a personal level. How can you do this? By differentiating your classroom. Use a maximum number of student-student activities. Try to reduce teacher talking time. You can flip your classroom to get that done. Promote cooperation among learners. Is not only about giving them activities to do in groups, but also to give them goals to accomplish altogether. Practice both accuracy and fluency. That's something that we're going to see in the second part of our course, which is how we can design lessons that are going to tackle both things at the same time. There is no one more important than the other. We have to balance accuracy and fluency. And address learners' needs and interests. Once again, you need to differentiate your classroom and try to find ways to tackle everybody. So let's take a look at what the post-method learners are. So post-method learners identify their learning strategies and styles. This is not a person, this is not a consumer. A learner in the post-method era is not a consumer. It's someone who is an active member of their own learning process. So for that reason, they incorporate some strategies employed by successful language learners. Even though you are not good at something, you can incorporate learning strategies. So for that, the teacher has to give them to you, right? So evaluate their own ongoing learning outcomes in addition to taking regular class tests and other standardized tests. So post-method learners do not only focus on testing and just washback effect and preparing for the test, but they actually want to learn, and they look for ongoing learning opportunities and assess their own learning. Reach out for opportunities for additional language reception or production. This kind of learner looks for different opportunities to practice video games, music, Gringos Tuesday. You know, are you one of these learners? They also seek teachers' intervention to get adequate feedback. It's not like they wait for, the grade and then complain about the grade, but this person is involved in the learning process. They collaborate with other learners to pull information on specific projects, not only because they have to, but because they want to, and they know they learn better with their peers. And they also take advantage of opportunities to communicate with competent speakers, be it their teachers, other classmates, or native speakers of the language. But if those learners are like that, what does the teacher have to look like? Well, the teacher has to be a teacher researcher. The teacher has to use investigative methods to gather learner profiles, identify researchable questions emerging from profiles and classroom observation, and cluster the questions in themes and patterns, and decide to explore individually and collectively. A teacher in the post-method era is a teacher who is a researcher. It's a reflective teacher who likes to conduct systematic research about what he or she finds in their students. Also explores which of the resources learners bring can be profitably exploited. So it's like we will see in the SIOP model, we see that students are not blank slates. Students are not tabula rasas. They are actually people full of knowledge and background that can be exploited for the lesson. The teacher also finds opportunities to engage in electronic dialogue with local and distant peers and scholars. A teacher that is in the post-method era is a connected educator. The teacher also develops interpretive strategies to observe, analyze, and evaluate their own teaching acts by using observation, recognizing the potential mismatch between teacher intention and learner interpretation. So, a teacher researcher, a post-method era teacher, is always in the lookout for opportunities for improvement. So now it's your turn to think about this. Analyze English classes at Unica and try to identify the different methods evidenced in teachers' practices. Are teachers at Unica post-method teachers? Are students at Unica post-method students? Write a list of such evidences. Good luck!